Today is my first day as U.S. Secretary of State, and recording this message is one of the first things I'm doing. Because
this is Gun Cranks.
Hey there, everybody. Yes, it's the Gun Cranks. We're back again. Thanks for joining us. I'm Guns Magazine editor Brent Wheat, along with American Handgunner Magazine editor Tom McHale, and our currently retired and happy boss, Roy Huntington. Hey guys, how's it going?
Why do you always introduce yourself first?
Because I'm kind of the host, right?
I'm glad somebody brought
Debatable.
that up. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Well, okay, Tom, go.
Okay. Hey, we got it.
Well,
That was pretty
okay,
good.
I'm taking back over.
That's why he always introduces it. Yeah.
Well, we've got a great show, lots of fun stuff. We got a special guest in this episode, which we'll talk about here in just a second. But first, we've got a new feature that was suggested by a fan. We're going to involve our viewers with a segment called You Might Be a Gun Crank If. So this week, you might be a gun crank if you put a Hogue grip on your parking brake.
Yeah, what's wrong with that, huh?
Can we put a
That's a
rim
good
shot in there?
idea. Yeah.
I just want to know what a parking brake is.
Wow.
That's true. Yeah. Or
Never
a gear
mind.
shift.
We'll talk
handle
about
in
it
your
once we
case.
shut off the camera.
Right.
So anyway, guys, let's light the fires and kick the tires. I always do that in reverse, and get gun cranks started. Well, we were talking about topics for gun crank segments, and we found we were laughing about a common event, shall we say, that we've all done and probably every viewer has done, and that is getting rid of problem critters around the house, the barn, the ranch, whatever. And it's funny that when we were talking about this, all of us had a bat story to start out. So I'll throw it to the Batman, Tom McHale. What's your bat story?
Well, actually, I would consider it more like a good practical tip that is sure to help out some of our viewers here. This one happened quite some time ago. I was actually in college and had a group of frat buddies at my folks' house, and
This is going to go bad anyway, isn't it?
Yes. So we had a finished basement, down there where it's okay though, because we self-imposed a strict beer limit of one per person. So no issues there. But before too long, we had a bat flying around the basement, right? And I know you guys know what bats are like. Think of like a motorized seizure. That's kind of how a bat flies. High speed, erratic, and all that stuff. So we decided, being sober, that the most effective way to deal with the bat was to shoot it out of the air with the Daisy Red Ryder. You've got a high volume. Think about it. You've got a high volume of fire, rapid fire. Lever, cock, shake the BBs down to the muzzle, bring it up. Launch one. I mean, it's like you can't miss. It felt kind of unfair. It's kind of like shooting fish in a barrel. But 307 shots later, the bat was still flying. And,
Only he was going like this when he flew by.
Yeah, he was. He landed. He landed. And, can I do? Okay, so, one of those, right? And he landed and did that. And we did find out that one of my mom's antique carriage lamps, the old gas lights that used to go in the front of carriages with this beveled lead glass, had a BB perforation right through the middle. So we ended up going to the hardware store the next morning and shoving a couple of cheap pieces of raggedy glass, because what college kids know how to use a glass cutter, right? So it was more like a hammer, to hammer out these little rectangles of glass. And she never noticed. And I kid you not, probably 30 years after that, at a family dinner, I told this story, and my mom was like, "No way, you are so lying." And I ran downstairs to the basement. It was still there, and I brought this lamp up, and I said, "Look at this carefully." And boy, did I get a spanking, when I was in my 40s.
I was going to say, I'm afraid just hearing the story,
Well, Roy...
But it works, that's why I say it's kind of like a tip.
So
really.
don't skeet shoot with a Red Ryder in your parents' basement. That seems like a reasonable tip. Roy, let's get away from this.
It's a cop story, and I won't go long on it, but there's a lesson, and I'll tell you what the lesson is. So yeah, here you're on patrol. It's graveyard. You get a call. 121 John. See the man. See the woman. So we go there, and they said they have an animal problem, and so normally that could be like a dog, causing a problem, a barking dog, or who knows what. So we get there, and we knocked on the door. I had a partner with me. And this sort of earthy-looking, hippie kind of couple answered the door in this condo. And we said, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning or something. We said, yeah, you call the police. Is there something we could do for you? And they said, yes, could you come in? And we said, sure. And, and we came inside. And now I swear on everything that is holy in your life, they had a candle-lit pentagram on the floor in their condominium. And we said, okay, what can we do for you? And they said, well, there seems to be a bat inside of our house. And I said, okay, and my partner, Ray Pulsifer, was always funny. He had his hands in his tuffy jacket pocket, and he would always go like this, and he would sideways glance at me when we were talking to people like this, and because that says a lot right there. And we said, okay, well, what do you want us to do? And they said, like we were nuts. They said, well, we would like you to catch the bat and get rid of it. And we said, well, that's really not what we do, and if you just leave it alone, open a window up, and it'll find its way out. Apparently, they come down through the chimney. They had a little, gas fireplace thing, and they come down through the chimney. And they said, well, we thought that if we called the police, that you guys would help us. And we said, well, no, we'll help you for other things except for that. And so we said our goodbyes, and when we stopped, Ray Pulsifer turned like this. He looks back at the pentagram, and he goes, I have to ask, is this something you do, or what is that about? And they said, oh no, my husband told me if we did a pentagram like that the aura would cause the bat to leave. And then so Pulsifer gives me his look again. He goes, he used to always call me Officer Huntington. And he said, Officer Huntington, I believe our work here is done. And so we turned around and he left. And this is when I learned something about police work that I had never thought of before. As we walked back to the car, he stopped and he looked at me. He said, Officer Huntington, what other government agency do you know who will answer the phone at 3 o'clock in the morning, much less send someone to your house? And I went, You're right. I never thought of that before. He said, so they just exercised their constitutional rights, didn't they? Anyway, true story, so there you go.
That's something that people don't understand. Police deal with all manner of animal calls all the time. And I'm sitting here thinking, of course, dogs and cats, that's every day. But I'm sure you can say the same thing. You worked in a large, mostly urban agency, but I'm sure you've dealt with cattle, horses, goats, snakes, alligators, snapping turtles, all that. My favorite critter story was one morning, myself and another officer got dispatched to a 911 hang-up, which could be anything. It could be a mistake on the phone, could be a homicide in progress, you don't know. So we kind of work up there easy, and it was in the worst trailer court in our community. I don't care what your views, your socioeconomic outlook, this is a crappy trailer court. So we knock on the door cautiously, and a lady, oh goodness, thanks, you're here. We've got a problem. And I thought, okay, well, that's why we're here. We have a possum under the sink. Okay, well, what would you like us to do? Well, I need you to get rid of it. And I thought, okay, well, and so we go in, and her adult son is living with her, and I'm thinking, you had to call us because Buford here couldn't take time out from his video game? But whatever. Okay, fine. So it's still pitch dark outside. So I open up under the sink, and there's a possum sitting in a fish bowl under the sink, just, and I slammed the door. Yeah.
How does that
Well, we found out
happen?
later,
Yeah.
this trailer had holes going through to the ground, so he just crawled right up. So
oh, yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
I shut it and I said, yeah, there's possum in there. And it was a small, like a yearling possum, I guess. So we were, kind of, well, what do you do? And my partner, who wasn't the brightest bulb in the chandelier, shall we say, he goes, we could shoot it. She goes, oh, no, don't do that, don't do that. And I'm thinking, great, we're going to pull out a 45 and waste a possum right here in the trailer. Not a good idea. I said, no, we'll get it. So she had one of these like pickup things. It's a stick about this long, and it's got little crimpers on the end and a trigger grip. I said, give me that thing. Are you going to grab it with that? I said, yeah, it's no problem because possums are slow, right? You've seen them. They kind of waddle along, kind of do their thing. So I grabbed it, and then it's really getting angry. And possums can be mean when they're cornered. And yeah, they're nasty. So I grabbed this thing kind of around the middle. I'm kind of squeezing it. And of course, she screams, runs off, and everybody makes a big hole. And I go to the front door, and I set it down expecting it to, kind of hiss and waddle off. That thing took off like a greyhound. I didn't know those things are like Speedy Gonzales. So all I could think the rest of the day was, had that thing come up my arm, I'm not exactly sure what I would have done, but I put the clippy tong down, and she was still cowering in the bedroom, and I turned to my partner and said, we're done here. We've done our good duty for the day. and like half an hour later, they called back. Stupid thing had crawled right back up through the hole and was under the sink again. So that time they did, and we told dispatch, we're sorry. One possum per customer per day. So I don't know what they did. They probably ate it.
Did you tell them to get a Daisy Red Ryder?
And people wonder why cops sometimes don't seem like they have a real sense of humor. I mean, it's just like, I'll round this out with a real short one. I got a call, urban America or suburban America, and we were by all these canyons, and it was to get a snake. It was a rattlesnake, right? So it's like, that's fine, I don't mind, So we show up there, and there's this studious-looking gentleman with a little boy about 8 years old with him, and I stopped my car and I walked up, just suburban house, right? A driveway, little bushes on the driveway, and I said, did you call the police? And why did we always say that? Because people laugh at that. They say, why do you say, did you call the police? Because they did. Well, because sometimes they change their mind or they say, never mind, or, I don't want to just jump right into it. Anyway, he said, yes, we did, officer. Thank you for coming. There's a snake. There's a rattlesnake in the flower bed right over there. And I said, okay, I'm used to that. And we all had those, remember expandable batons? We used to have those little ones. We always had those. And so I pulled it out, kind of snicked it out, and strolled on over and lifted up the bush, and sure enough, there was this little baby rattlesnake curled up there. So I gave him a thunk, and picked him up, and he had a trash can at the curb, so I went down and I dropped him in the trash can, and I came back up and I said, anything else? And he said, why, no, officer, I appreciate you attending to that. And I said, sure, no problem. But this is the story. As I turned around to leave, the little boy goes, Daddy, why couldn't you have done that? Wow. I know. So as I was walking back to my car, he couldn't see my face. I was like going, oh, yes, that's true. You're a wuss. You're a sissy.
Well, I know our producer is going to be yelling in my ear just a second, but Sherry, I want to go extra innings. I just thought of my turbo flying goat story, and I'm going to take just a couple minutes and talk about that. We get a call one day of a goat in trouble under a railroad overpass. So it was where a railroad went over another railroad, so it was a pretty tall overpass, and it had that concrete abutment with a little ledge that the bridge kind of set on. So I get there, I had to drive down the road beside the railroad, and there's a goat up there. I don't know how it got there, but this is probably 40 feet in the air. I mean, it's way up there. So exactly. And of course, my first thought is call the guy that wanted to shoot the possum and let him open fire, right? Well, now we've got a crowd of people because they're seeing what's going on. We got little kids there. I'm thinking, okay, I can't just leave the goat there. So what do we do in situations like that, Roy? We call the fire department. So
or animal
have
control.
The luxury at that point
I was just
of
pass
animal
the buck,
control.
pass the
now
buck,
we do, but back then it was fire department, street department, or us, and that was the only three. So we got the goat up here, and it's pacing back and forth, and I'm keeping people away from underneath because this thing might jump, and by the time it hit the ground, it'd be lethal if it hit somebody. So, yeah. So I call
lethal goat.
the fire crew. They come out, and I said, I don't know what to do, but you guys got ladders and ropes and stuff. So, and I think every fire crew is this way. There's one guy that thinks he's, the goat herder or the cattle rancher or something. So I thought they would just maybe rope it and lower it down. This guy decided they put up a ladder. He climbed up at one end of the abutment and started crawling on this ledge, underneath the bridge. And he's going to like hand lasso this goat. Well, aside from the horn issue, I'm thinking just if the goat charges him and knocks him off, it's going to kill him. So I'm not thinking this is a real good idea. So he's crawling forward with a rope in hand. The goat is backing up, and the goat gets to the end. And I'm thinking, we're going to see something ugly here. I was really concerned, and I'm thinking, all these little kids are standing here and parents, and all of a sudden you can see the goat kind of tense up, and then he leaps off into space. And there was some undergrowth, some shrubby trees, and he hits these trees on the way down, and he's spinning and flying, and I'm thinking, oh no, these kids are screaming. That goat hit the ground, and he was just like the possum, 42 miles an hour. I don't know how he didn't have bones sticking up every place, and the fireman's just up there going, see, I got him down. My work here is done. So
My work here is done.
this could be a whole series of shows for another day because that just scratches the surface. But okay, we'll rock it. We'll knock it out. So we'll try some other time with crazy critter stories. And if you've got a crazy critter story, send it to us or leave us a comment down below.
Hey guys, we've got a guest this week. You may know her, the famous Serena J. And I'm going to call her Serena J because her last name is absolutely impossible to pronounce, but she
We love
sure as
her
heck
dearly.
knows how to shoot a rifle. No, but there's a reason for this. See, we're hard at work while you guys are goofing around on the upcoming Concealed Carry and Self-Defense Special Annual Edition, chock full of how-to stories. And one of those is being done by Serena herself on less lethal tools for self-defense. So we thought it'd be a cool idea to bring her in today and discuss some of the fun things she found out. Welcome, Serena.
Thanks for the big welcome there. It's been really interesting to learn a little bit more about different types of defense options rather than just typical concealed carry. I had an incident when I was in college where I had someone approach me and I didn't have pepper spray or anything. I had a flip phone. I couldn't get the numbers on the screen and I was absolutely terrified. So I'm glad that I'm not that way anymore, and it's been really fun to experiment with some fun things like this.
Right, that looks like a gun.
What is that?
So this is from Umarex, Prepared to Protect the T4E HDP-50. And so when it showed up, I was really excited about it because it does actually look like a firearm. It actually is a pepper pistol. So the slide doesn't move at all. It has fiber optic sights. This is unloaded, by the way. It's powered just by 12-gram cartridge of CO2.
Yeah, that's the standard airgun stuff, right? You find in Walmart or sporting goods store. Is that just the normal BB pellet pistol cartridge?
Yes.
Cool.
The air cartridge. You don't want to put BBs in it. I don't think that would be a good idea.
First thing I would try, but that's okay.
The pellets just go in the bottom. It took me a minute to figure out. I wasn't really sure, how to approach something like this. And if you're carrying it, you got to think about the fact that someone might think it's a real gun, especially with the number of customization options available now. I think we all saw the Lego gun that someone made that looks more like a toy than an actual gun.
Yeah.
So these are the little pellets.
So they're like marble size ish, give or take.
About half the size of a marble.
And they're actually OC. Are they're OC pellets? Or
full of pepper stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hot sauce. We call it hot sauce.
Yeah.
Hot sauce.
Yeah, I found that out.
Okay, I'll ask.
Right?
How did you find that out?
So I was practicing with they had powder cartridges, not cartridges, but little powder balls. And I was like, you know what, this is going to be fun. I'll shoot it at a tree. I'll get used to this. I'm like, you know what, I want to try the real stuff now and see. So I made sure I was downwind and just started going to town on this tree. It didn't hurt. No trees were hurt in this entire process, by the way. And accidentally, I was like, hey, Mom, Dad, look at this. So they're watching, and so I start shooting this at the tree, and my dad starts waving his arms at me. He's like, get back! I'm like, what are you talking about? Didn't realize that the wind had changed, and I was now standing in the middle of this giant cloud of pepper spray.
So my question is, does it work? Is
It works.
a cloud of
definitely
hot pepper stuff a deterrent?
It definitely works. I was like choking on it. I had glasses on, luckily, or I think that would have been really bad. But for an hour afterwards, I had my arms were burning just from the cloud, and I had to go basically go take a shower just to get everything off of me. So it was definitely a lot longer lasting than I was expecting, and I didn't even get the full brunt of it.
See,
If that was actually shot at me, there's no way. I think I would be incapacitated for a little while.
I'm sorry for laughing, but actually I'm not really
Oh,
sorry.
it's fine.
Right, yeah, we're laughing at you, not with you.
Yeah.
Serena,
Yeah,
what is
one
that?
of those. Which way does that go? I don't know.
Yeah, what's that gun cost? I guess we'll call it a gun. What's that pepper ball deployer cost?
Oh, jeez.
See,
forgot.
Serena,
Oh,
let me give you a
that's all
tip.
right.
Because
We'll figure
Brent tries
that
to
out.
nail me on this every single show, and what you have to do is just instantly answer $375,000.
Yes.
Just as long as you say a
No.
number with confidence, then it works. So
Well,
I don't want to give anybody the wrong number.
No, knowing Umarex though, I'm sure it's affordable.
Yeah.
I mean, they always do really affordable stuff, and we'll have a link, at the end of everything, I'm sure, with the
Roy.
details on that gun. So,
Roy,
Cool.
we need to pause this show for a second. That was just pure evil. Doing the hazing thing on a guest.
I
Hey.
know.
Come
Silly
on,
me.
man.
It's one-
Come on, man.
109.99. 109.99.
Well, there you
Got
go.
it.
See, she knows.
And,
Well
and
done.
Serena, learning
Yeah.
has occurred because now you understand why it is very important to follow the rule of gun cranks, which is never trust the gun cranks.
And
I know. I've been finding that out.
and never be prepared,
Exactly.
because we never are. All right.
What's more funny is I thought I was prepared because I had everything laid out. I've even got some of the self-defense lights I was playing with.
Hey, yeah,
I've
give
got
us
the holsters to go along with the things.
a little preview. What else is in that story?
The second thing that I really, really liked were they also were from another branch of Umarex. They're exude lights, and they're actually illuminators. They really push the fact that it's not just a flashlight. So I took these out into the backyard. This is actually designed for mounting on an AR style rifle, both for predator hunting. So the only downside is they don't have a strobe feature. They do have different filters, which doesn't really matter for self-defense, but they are extremely bright and portable. So they're USB rechargeable, at least this one is. This one would be really easy to keep in a car, where this one is so light I could carry it in a purse or in my car if I wanted to. But projected in an extremely dark area, the light is so bright it almost looks like just one beam of camera, and you could see it like it's the lights on the Hollywood sign.
Wow.
So I wasn't brave enough or stupid enough to actually look into it with my eyes open.
Yeah, don't do that.
So
No.
I closed my eyes and had someone shining over, and man, I was even seeing spots behind my eyes just doing that. So.
You know,
That's the one with the really sharply defined edge on the beam.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah,
There
those
is-
are really cool.
to me, it looks like a
There's-
theater spotlight. It is that
It
concentrated.
Yes.
And it's folks may say, well, it's just a flashlight. We understand that it might, mess up somebody's night vision if they're going to attack you, but I think Roy would back me up on this. Most people that are doing bad are cowards. So something as simple as if you're in a parking lot and you choose not to carry a firearm, maybe it's a spouse, and they've got a flashlight, you shine a flashlight like that on them and say, what are you doing? Get away from me. They're going to do it most of the time. Now, if they don't, you don't have a backup plan because you're not carrying a gun, but it will solve the problem many times.
What happens when you turn a light on? The roaches run.
Exactly.
That's the truth.
Well, hey,
Well, that
hey we're
was
doing
cool.
a whole story on that in the same magazine that Serena's article is appearing in. We're doing a 10 reasons you should always carry a flashlight, even in the daytime.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
stay tuned for those secrets.
Cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool stuff. So
Well, thanks for joining us, Serena,
Thank you
so
for
nobody
having
else
me.
will say that.
I just
She's nice to have around. I'm tired of looking at you guys.
That's
Hey,
true.
Serena, before we go, can you
Yes.
do one thing? Can you send that pistol to Roy? He has a rooster problem, with rude manners towards the fairer sex of chickens. And I'm thinking it's a 2-for-1 solution. Stop that nonsense and hot wings all in one fell swoop. So
Interesting. I never thought of that.
Except-
it's
there you go.
For our fans, they're also making fun of the fact that when I was testing these things at my sister's house, she decided she wanted me to take out her Polish rooster. I said absolutely not, but she was begging me to do so, and I was actually using another less lethal option from Pepperball, their mobile unit, and accidentally put a dent in the side of her barn. In the metal siding. So these things are very, very powerful. I
effective.
don't really know what would happen if you did hit a chicken with it. And by the way, that chicken did pass away afterwards. But not because of the pepper spray. I did not hit it with the pepper spray.
Well, let me just say I've heard, having been a cop for a while and carried OC spray and was a pepper ball instructor, it doesn't really work on birds, believe it or not, or bats. Does it, Roy?
And that's another story.
That's another segment.
That's right. All right. Thanks, Serena.
Thank you.
I remember when the G gun first got introduced.
when
the-
rocks were invented? Was
When
that what you
rocks
gonna
were
say?
invented. Just after rocks were
By
invented.
precision
Glock.
German engineering.
Yeah. Exactly. When they were first introduced, I remember everybody in the firearm industry, all their hair lit on fire, and they all ran down the hallways, rending their clothing off, and everyone thought the shooting world was going to end. But it was okay because we also said, plastic guns? Really? Who are they trying to fool? And we all, of course, predicted that they would sell 8 of them. And then all the gun writers like Elmer Keith and people would come out and say, this was a stupid idea, and I don't think it's American. And except what did we actually find out? That our predictions were sorely incorrect, I would say, which caused me to think that I'll bet you that my peers here may come up with 3 or 7 or 9 more things like that. So I was one of the ones that said plastic pistols would never work, and I have to admit I was completely and utterly wrong about that. So any of you guys, Brent, do you have
Yeah.
anything you want to wade in on
I would
here?
say, kind of a continuation of what you just said, I say the 9mm. Because remember, 15, 20 years ago, 9mm versus 45, the ultimate, shootout.
Yep.
And now with better technology of bullets, even guys that I really respect are now carrying 9s. So I still carry a 45 most of the time, but I don't feel undergunned with a 9, especially if I need a smaller gun. So I think that whole debate, and we always laugh about it in the journalism world of when you're trying to give an illustration of the most trite story you can come up with, it's 9mm versus 45, and it's pretty much gone away because they all perform about the same. Just remember, a handgun is a badly underpowered weapon. It's what you carry so you can, rather than what you would carry going into a gunfight. But we found, like I said, with high quality 9mm ammo nowadays, you're not sacrificing much if you step down from a 45 or whatever.
Can I add something to that? When they introduced the 40, and I remember all these uppity snots started looking down their nose at the rest of we 9mm
Yeah.
shooters, going,
Well, the
The 9
the 40
millimeters,
was
right.
the thing, man. Everybody,
it was the
our
thing.
department, every police department in America went to it, and then.
Yep. And I said, this is a huge waste of your time and money and energy. You shouldn't bother doing this. With all due respect to companies who make 40 ammunition, 40 guns and all that, there's nothing wrong with that. And if you want to do it, do it. If you like to shoot them, there's nothing wrong with them shoot or anything. But guess what's happening across the whole country now? Brent, what are police agencies doing as we speak?
We've just rediscovered this 40 caliber. It's a great round. Why did we ever get rid of it? Because everything goes in cycles. John Moses Browning invented most things, and we just keep rediscovering it.
It's just amazing.
Yeah, I never liked the 40. Okay.
No.
I wonder if I still have my job. No, but seriously, I mean, I'll shoot it. It's fine, but I've always found it a compromise. You know, I'd give me a 9 or a 45, and the 40 I always found snappier with no real big benefit. If I want a bigger, slower, heavier bullet, shoot a 45. I know there's a capacity difference and all that, but
Well, I think that was a bit of a cycle, though. It was when it came out, I think a lot of people predicted, it's the wave of the future. And it looked like it was, but then, of course, it all crashed and burned. Things like the polymer frame pistols, we all thought, oh, no, it's all going to die. Some people said it'll be the wave of the future, and it really was, And I think I equate the 40 to the old 41 Magnum. When they brought that out, it was to fill that void between 38 Special and 44 Magnum, and it just cue the crickets So, and I think that's what everyone thought the 40 was going to do, but I don't know. Tom, do you have any of those? Oh, this will never work, but it really worked.
Why? Yes, I do. Being the technology geek in the group, and I'll proudly wear that moniker. I'm going to choose handgun red dots. Now, these aren't new. They've been on competition handguns for a couple of decades now, give or take. Somebody can give me the exact year they first appeared at Bianchi Cup. But they're not new. But what I think is new is I think we're real close to the time when more new handguns are going to come out with a red dot on them or ready for a red dot than without. So it's just, it's kind of like, to me, it's kind of like the scopes on rifles. I mean, I think back to, the Elmer Fudd, out in the Old West days saying, hey, I've got my iron sights on this rifle, it'll never break, and I'm putting glass on there. And, what's happened in the rifle world, but same thing, It's just a matter of time and technology and engineering, and, they're getting reliable, they work, they're easy to shoot, precise.
Yeah.
Lots of things in the plus column.
I will grudgingly accept that you are correct on that. And
what?
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
I don't agree with it, though.
Hey, hang on. Let me get our.
Yeah.
I got to talk to our producer for a second. Can you take that? Can you amplify the sound in just a little short segment of the show, double?
And repeat it in a continuous loop for about 30
I'm not
seconds.
that mossed back.
Maybe a caption.
I own some guns with red dots. So see, and I even carry a laser now, Tom, and that's thanks to you.
Whoa!
How about that?
All right, I have another one. I'm going to take it in a different direction. 25 years ago, maybe, Uncle Mike's, I think it was, introduced, when they were independent from where they are now, they introduced something at, I think it was a SHOT Show, or it might have been the IACP Chiefs of Police Convention, and it was a smart holster. And it was a locking holster, what we would call a level 3 holster in those days. Safariland had their old 070 and some of the early holsters. And they were just starting to take over law enforcement duty carry. But what Uncle Mike's did was they actually had a thumbprint activated holster. And at the time, it was right at the limit of the technology. So it was mostly kind of sort of worked, and I remember when they introduced it, they admitted that this is not ready for duty carry, but we just want to show you what we think the future of police duty holsters will be. And sure enough, they sent me one, and you put your gun in the holster, and it would go click, whir, and clunk, and it would lock in. It had a little bar that went through the trigger guard, as I recall. And then to draw the gun, you got a firing grip. You put your thumb on the little thumb reader pad, like we all have on our iPhone now. And then it would go click, whir, and then you could draw the gun. And it took about 3/4 of a second to a second. And even at the time, I can't remember the guy who was ahead of it, he said, I know, you're already dead. And I said, yeah, that's the problem. And he said, but it's a proof of concept, and we think this is going to be the way of the future. And I have to admit, at the time, I might have been editor of Police Magazine at the time. I can't remember for sure. But I remember at the time thinking, it's cute, it's quaint. I don't want to trust my life to a battery and an electronic anything like that. I want it to be mechanical. And they all said, no, you're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. Within a year, we're going to have this technology down. Within 5 years, every police officer duty holster is going to have this kind of passive retention. And I don't hear the sound of servos unlocking police holsters today. Brent, what are your thoughts about that?
That one's a hard sell.
Yeah.
That's a hard sell. Especially in the police world, it's very conservative. So things like that are going to be questionable. But,
well, it's only not on the street yet because they're working on the latest version still. The new one actually sends a permission request to the government via Wi-Fi for permission to shoot. So, but you put your thumbprint on it, Wi-Fi to the ATF. Uncle Joe reviews your request and then transmits back an OK signal.
Schumer looks at you over his glasses like that, and tells you whether or not. So, no, I know what you mean. Well, I agree with you. It may happen someday, and it may. I remember in the 70s, I think there was a ring, and I can't remember what it was called.
Yep.
It was a magnetic ring, and you did a modification to your revolver. And what you did was when you had a firm firing grip on the gun, the magnet in the ring would pull this block out, and it would then allow the mainspring to move, and then you could shoot your gun. And it was modestly successful. I remember seeing them every once in a while. But again, I think we all just had this knee-jerk reaction, which is, man, I don't want anything in there messing around with my gun, that could make it not work. So I don't know. I think on that technology, the new camera systems that they have for guns that deploy on the gun. I think those are going to become universal. And I'll go on record and say that. Those are going to be universal.
Think so.
Later on.
I think so too now, but I sure didn't at first. I saw that at the beginning. I'm like, no, who on earth is going to want that? And
no,
I mean,
when I saw it,
one.
Yeah, I liked it. Yeah. I thought, this is really good. And they did it in the 30s and 40s even with these little miniature film cameras.
Well,
but
before we wrap up, though, I think you guys are missing the really big one. And Roy and I both lived through this. These semi-autos will never replace wheel guns. They haven't. That's why I'm still carrying my Model 19, right?
Nah,
not so much.
There you go. That's a gun, by golly.
That's right.
I'll tell you.
So we.
Yeah, we were wrong about that, huh?
So.
All right, we beat this to death, you guys. Thanks a lot. I think we should revisit this someday because I got a long list of these things where we all thought we were really smart, but we weren't that smart. So thanks for playing along.
Well, that draws another Gun Cranks to a close. I know we went a little long, but you had to talk about the turbo flying goat. So, like I said, if you've got stories to tell, leave us a comment down below, or you can write us. That's editor@gunsmagazine.com or editor@americanhandgunner.com. And if you've got something for Roy, we'll be happy to pass that along. While you're there, maybe link us on your social media and check out our sister publication, AmericanCop.com. Lots of good stuff over there. It's not just for cops, it's for folks who still support the police. And frankly, I think there's a lot more of them out there than what the media is suggesting. So anyway, on behalf of Roy Huntington and Tom McHale, I'm Brent Wheat with another episode of Gun Cranks.